Welcome to the Putback here on SNY, presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. We got great guests on this show. We've got Ty Butler, ESPN New York and SNY, and Barbara Barker of Newsday, covering the NBA and the Knicks for a while now. Great perspective from both of them. We hit on plenty of topics, including Mike Brown, Landry Shamet's play. We even get into some around the league stuff on the Hawks. We'll get into Karl Anthony Towns, some injury discussion. So we really hit it all here with the Knicks and two fantastic guests. It's NBA season. Every shot you take with Fanatics Sportsbook puts points on the board. Earn up to 10% fan cash on your bets, win or lose. So even if your bet misses, you're still scoring fan cash. Unlock the world of Fanatics with fan cash for exclusive rewards like authentic apparel, game tickets, and meeting legends at Fanatics events. Make the switch and turn every bet into a bucket with Fanatics Sportsbook. Winning hits different here. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Not available in all states. Terms apply. See Fanatics Sportsbook app. Welcome to the Putback here on SNY.TV. I'm Ian Begley, SNY's NBA insider, and I'm joined by two great guests today. On this show, we're going to break things down, Knicks and around the NBA. Putback presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. Guys, we have Barbara Barker here today, senior writer at Newsday, spends a lot of time around this Knicks team, has spent a lot of time around the Knicks throughout her career. We got Ty Butler, media personality at ESPN New York and SNY. He's all over the Knicks as well, so we're excited to get right into it. And as always, we start with the baseline. Knicks winning their first road game in Dallas, and it was a tight one. It was an ugly one, but they came away with the win. Jalen Brunson back for the first time since missing 2 games with an ankle injury. Landry Shamet hitting some big shots late. Knicks missing free throws, benefiting from a late call. Ty, when you watched that game, what was your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway is that if things go the other way, we are having a completely different conversation today. And I understand that we got to preface everything with it's still early. But guys, if the Knicks go into Dallas, a Dallas team that has 4 wins on the season, 3 of those wins coming against teams below 500, with no Kyrie, no Anthony Davis, no Cooper Flag, and they still somehow lose and they're winless on the road, then I don't think there's a such thing as an overreaction because of how that game played out and because of what the expectations are for this team. Fans wake up today saying, thank God we won it. But, I mean, when you are expected to win the Eastern Conference, when you are a team that people want to see contend for a championship, that is a loss you cannot have on your resume. So for the Knicks, important, significant win last night just because of the ramifications of that would have just been awful.
Like Brown said afterwards, sometimes you have to win ugly. Barbara, is there anything to a win like that kind of being a little more meaningful than just one win? For an NBA team at this point in the season, or is it too early to make too much of these wins and losses?
I wouldn't get too excited about that win. I agree with Ty. First of all, my first reaction is I'm glad I wasn't writing live and it was Steve Popper, not me. I mean, that game at the end was terrible. I just think, for it to, free throws. How do you miss that many free throws? All right, yeah. And then also you're missing, like he said. I thought Cooper Flag was going to at least play, but he's not playing. This is not a very good team, and it's a team with a lot of problems. And the Knicks are supposed to be contending. If they had lost that game, now you can write off one loss, but I right now I think the Knicks, they're going into Orlando. I'm nervous about the whole thing right now.
Yeah, it's interesting, and the 3-point defense has been an early issue, and it reared its ugly head against Dallas. If you're a Knicks fan watching that game, you're probably pulling your hair out of your head a little bit because Dallas able to penetrate and get open looks and get quality looks, and that's been the case more often than not with this Knicks defense. And so, Ty, based on what you've seen so far and your expectations were coming into the season, you think this team can get to where you expect them to go?
Absolutely, because as bad as a loss would have been, they still win the game. And you saw Brunson come back, and it's like Brunson leads the league in injuries that you think are going to be significant, only for him to just bounce back, and it's like nothing ever happened. And last night he was critical. Towns, I thought, was a little bit unsure of himself offensively, but he still, had an impact on the game, giving you rebounds. And, Bridges hits that big three in the corner yesterday. And then obviously Landry Shamet has excellent defensive plays and a couple of threes that went down. Deuce McBride, throw him into the equation. So I'm running through the list of guys, and it just shows you that the Knicks have so many different options, whether it's scoring or defense, that they can go to. So this deep team that does play with a chip on its shoulder, led by Jalen Brunson, who's one of the 7-8 best players in the league, I do watch them and feel like at their apex, they can absolutely do everything that you and I and all of us are expecting them to do this season.
Guys, let's go to sound off here where we listen to an answer from a Knicks player or coach, and then we talk about it. We got one from Mike Brown here from November 12th before the Magic game. Let's hear it.
We're getting a little better, these guys are willing to grow and try to do what's best for the team while not getting too high or too low. They're a group that tries to pay attention to the detail, of everything that we're throwing at them. And I think they genuinely want each other to have success.
So, Barbara, if you're listening to that answer, you're maybe thinking to yourself, I've heard this 1,000 times from a million different coaches. It is a cliche. The reason I wanted to bring it up was because last season there were complaints about, shot attempts and who had the ball and why am I not getting the ball enough. And that was going on throughout the season, different parts of the season, different players. And I haven't heard the same this year. That's not to say it's not happening, but it was apparent last year, just talking to people around the team. This year, have not heard that. Now, it's early. Maybe things change over the course of a year. There's high pressure for this team, high expectations. But so far, I hadn't heard that. So when Mike Brown was talking about guys wanting each other to succeed and being willing to kind of sacrifice, that's where my mind went, because last year, I don't think that was always the case. And Barbara, just in terms of a team dynamic, how important is that when you see teams that are successful for guys to sacrifice who maybe can shoot the ball 20 times and have success, for them to kind of tone it down and put the team above themselves?
Well, I think one reason this now, it's different people sacrificing every night, where last year it was pretty much the same two people that were getting to score, or everything ran through Jalen, right? So now you have different people getting a chance. I think you're more willing to sacrifice if you know at some time you're going to get the turn, and it's not always going to be somebody else that's, I mean, even, it just alternates players. I mean, even guys, look at Landry Shamet. He barely made this team, right? He's had like two pretty exciting moments. I mean, I think everybody is getting a chance. The deeper rotation seems to work well with this group. I mean, I would like to see a game where both, I mean, there have been some, but both, a really important game where both Cat and Jalen have really good games. But I think right now you're not hearing a whole lot of complaining. I agree with you that, but part of it is he gives a lot of people a chance. And I think he is very communicative. But just going deep in the rotation makes a big difference.
Right. And Ty, your thoughts on that rotation? It's been different. There's been injuries. But Mike Brown, in general, your thoughts on that rotation?
Absolutely. So last night you had 9 guys play at least 17 minutes, which, as you just mentioned, a stark contrast from what we've grown accustomed to the last couple of years. And while people mainly focus on the fact that it allows your starters to maintain freshness over 82 and then 4 playoff rounds, I think another significant part about that is it instills confidence in those role players, because, Barbara just mentioned Shamet comes in. He barely made the team, and last night he's got the biggest shots. He's got the biggest defensive play. So once you show that you're depending on these guys and you're not just thrusting them into a do or die playoff game situation, which is a little bit unfair to expect them to do much of anything, it just brings synergy and camaraderie to a team that is expected to contend. And the fact that they're so low that they have enough depth, Mike Brown has afforded the luxury to be able to do that.
Barbara, one part of this rotation, Mitchell Robinson, he's been in, he's been out, but when he's been on the floor, he's made an impact. Almost every minute he's on the floor. What do you like? The Knick plan, obviously, is to hopefully have him healthy for the playoffs, and they're going to rest him when he's healthy sometimes throughout this regular season. How do you view that? Do you view that as something that's could be a roadblock for the Knicks, a team that's getting used to one another and trying to gain a rhythm together, or is that overblown?
I mean, it might be overblown given that when he came back after not playing a lot last year, right? I mean, when he's been back in, I think when he's in, he's impactful. So you got to decide, when do you want him in? When do you want him to be impactful? I mean, it is hard. I mean, there doesn't, I guess, they back-to-backs, but then there, the lack of information that the Knicks give you about availability is very difficult. But yeah, I mean, we'll see if it works. I mean, I do want to say one thing. A lot of stuff is written about how he's resting starters and resting starters. But I would like to see how many times in the faster offense the starters run up and down the court, because they are running more than they're used to.
Yeah, there's definitely that. Your thoughts on Mitch, Ty, so far, and the general plan with him?
So I want to hit basically on what she just said at the end there. Now, ideally, and we all would agree with this, it's almost like Giancarlo Stanton with the Yankees. You care less about their availability during the regular season because you're prioritizing the biggest games of the year, the postseason, and you know that these guys can be series changers, as we've seen with Mitchell Robinson. But a lot of the thought coming into the year for the Knicks was like this emphasis on tempo and pace. And Mitchell Robinson throughout his career has never played heavy minutes. But with a team like this, you want to be able to see how his body is able to react and handle running up and down the floor so that you can be prepared for it in playoff games, him being able to withstand that. So again, on one hand, I understand you want to take it easy because you're prioritizing the latter part of the season. But I need to, with my own eyes, see his body can withstand it. I mean, grinded out minutes against these fast-paced, high-octane offenses where he's not so gassed. And this is a guy who hasn't played a lot of basketball the last couple of years.
Yeah, the conditioning is certainly something that he knows he needs to work on and is not where it would be ideally. But look, based on what they're going to do with him, I don't know if it's ever going to get to 100%. And also, how many minutes is he going to be out there for come playoff time? Is it going to be 20? Is it going to be 25? So just something to keep an eye on. And to me, Barbara, Mikal Bridges just looks like a different player. And when even in the locker room talking to him, sounds like a different player. What are your impressions of Mikal?
I mean, my impressions are that Mikal became a different player in the postseason last year than the one I saw the entire season. And he's just carried it over into this year. I mean, I don't know maybe part of that is also he's being used a lot more. I mean, just the fact that you go, well, he's a starter, but deep in the rotation, I mean, it seems like the ball will go through him sometimes. So I just think he's more, I'm not saying the guy's wasn't confident, because you obviously are not a star of that caliber and not being confident, but I think he's more confident about his relationship with his coach.
Such a good point about the postseason. Just talking to people around the team at that time, there was a noticeable shift for Bridges, and it was just he'll do anything that it took to win, and you saw that on the floor. And it wasn't about anything besides that. I'm not saying that he was consumed with himself in the regular season, but there were ups and downs in the regular season. In the playoffs, just that there was the shift in mindset was noted for Bridges, and seems like that has carried over. When you look at Josh Hart's role here, obviously fluctuating with injuries and all that, but he's coming off the bench, Ty, and he started for a team that won 50 games in the regular season last year. That's a big adjustment. What do you think of what you've seen from him? Can he make that adjustment?
Yeah, so he started 50 games last year, but remember his initial role when the Knicks traded for him wasn't to be a starter, and he got there because of circumstance, and obviously he elevated his level of play to a point where he outplayed whatever his initial role was. So, as far as Josh Hart's concerned, I feel a lot better about him coming off the bench, and we saw it in the playoffs last year. He's going to be that do-it-all guy. Here's what I will say. Last night, that 3-point shot looked pretty good, and I don't think he's going to be as efficient as he was shooting it as we saw in that game against the Mavs. But teams are going to dare Josh to shoot. When you've got Bridges, has mastered that corner three. We know Jalen and Cat are great shooters. OG's upped his game up from the 3-point range. You're going to have to take away something from this Knick offense. And what teams are going to try to take away is those other guys and force Josh to shoot it. So I think it's important for him to hit at that clip, shoot it with confidence, because if he's doing that, I mean, they just have too many offensive weapons for them to be stopped. So that's what I'm paying attention to mostly when it comes to Josh Hart and his production.
And Barbara, I think you would agree with me. He makes our jobs easier just by being interesting and introspective and candid at moments. And do you see, to me, he's played pretty well more often than not. He seems like he's adjusting to this thing, but he's also said, sometimes he will think about minutes and not starting. And what have you seen from him in terms of the adjustment here?
I mean, I was a little worried about him during training camp because he was injured, obviously. I mean, what do you have, 2 separate injuries, I think, or something, or he's coming back from one. And I wasn't really sure what Mike thought about him either. I think, Mike trusts him a lot more too. I mean, the thing is with Josh, he does so much, you want him out on the floor, but Ty's correct. I mean, he's the guy you're going to force to shoot. So you want him out there because he can, rebound, like he's 7 feet tall. He makes those hustle plays. Sometimes he makes kind of a bad pass at a bad time, but so I mean, everybody does something like that, but it's really the shooting that's going to come down. If you have those guys on the floor, that's the guy that they're going to leave in coverage and go double up someone else.
Guys, let's go to the injury updates here. Obviously, Jalen Brunson coming back against Dallas after missing 2 games. He looked like I don't want to say didn't miss a step, but he scored 28 in his return and they won the game. I'm surprised that he came back so soon. I know he's a quick healer. This was just another instance of that, missing just 2 games with that ankle. OG Anunoby, Knicks were saying that he'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks. And so what that means is probably at least 3 weeks he's going to be out from the time that he got hurt. And hamstrings are tricky. OG, they're going to be cautious there. So I don't think they're going to rush him back. And usually when you see that 2-week designation, it's at least 3. So we'll see where he is in terms of that 2-week stretch. Maybe the Knicks will give us an update. Maybe we'll hear more there. But guys, Landry Shamet, the numbers here for Landry Shamet, pretty impressive so far. He's gotten a lot of minutes, and his role, I think, has even surprised some people internally based on how much he was playing last year and his production this year, I think, has surprised some people internally. So the Knicks, they rank in the 80th percentile in turnover rate and opponent offensive rebound rate with Shamet on the floor. So our big number is that it's 80%. Now, Mike Brown talks a lot about wanting the Knicks to win the possession battle. Those 2 numbers are conducive to that, and maybe that's why he trusts Shamet, and he's kind of springboarded him into this bigger role here. He's certainly playing a lot of minutes, and Mike Brown certainly seems to trust him. Maybe those numbers are a little bit evidence why. How surprised, Ty, are you with what you've seen from Landry Shamet?
Oh, listen, I'll be honest. I'm very surprised because, as we talked about earlier, it's like we got to a point where we were wondering if he was going to make the team. And Shamet's been someone who's bounced around from team to team. And you wonder, in a 3-point shooting league with a guy who's got, that propensity to hit at a high clip, how is he not more coveted? And some of the issues have been, he's able to be targeted defensively. But that version of Landry Shamet helps the Knicks become an even more dangerous team. So you hope he can just keep it up for an entire season. And when he's shooting with confidence, like what he did last night, and Jalen feeds him in the corner, and he nails it. And then he has another 3. Now, we don't want to focus on the 2 free throws that he missed because that could have cost the Knicks the game, but he was excellent. He's been tremendous so far, and you have to continue to, see him, on this trajectory in order for us to feel like he's going to be dangerous in that spot.
Can he keep this up, Barbara? The big moments, the scoring. I think defensively he's been very, very solid this year. Mike Brown talks about how he's going to give you effort and he's going to fight on that end. Can he keep this up, or is this kind of an early season outlier?
I mean, it's kind of hard not to cheer for him. All right. In the preseason, in training camp, I remember he came in and he was really confident, but it kind of wasn't cocky. And I was like, oh, this guy, maybe he'll make the team or whatever. And, maybe, Mike goes deep, you'll see him a little bit. And I just think that confidence, I mean, anyone that watched him had that, I forget how many points he had. What was his big career high scoring game?
36.
I think, 36. I mean, you just looked at the emotion on this guy and he just seemed, sometimes, guys go through bad stretches in the league. I don't know how many coaches he's had, but, you go through that and it just seems he's in a good place. Can he keep it up? I don't know. I mean, I think he's going to get opportunities. I mean, how could you not give him some opportunities now?
Yeah, Mike Brown, going way back to the offseason when he first was hired, I was told was a big Shamet fan and really wanted him because Shamet had a few options in free agency and it was kind of wait and see game there. And Brown really wanted him in camp and on this roster. And I guess he's showing you why the coach had so much confidence in him. And I think even if going back to training camp, even if there was a decision to be made between maybe Garrison Matthews and Landry Shamet, I still think it was always going to be Shamet. And then maybe you keep a Garrison Matthews, or maybe you're able to keep an additional player. I think that he had a spot all along there. So I think he's showing you why there is that confidence in him. And it'll be interesting to see if he can keep that up. Barb, I don't even want to call you Steve Popper's backup because that's, you carry him.
I'm the columnist. Steve is my backup. All right. I'll just put that.
He's your backup. Yes, absolutely.
You tell him I said that. Okay.
We love you, Steve. You covered the Knicks as a national writer and a beat reporter for a while in their most recent successful period there in the 90s. Do you see any traits, any similarities between what you're seeing here with this group and that group?
Well, Brunson would have fit perfectly on that team. All right. I mean, his dad was on some of those teams, didn't play really, but he was on those teams. But he has that mentality. He played a little bit. Rick played a little bit. I should add that. But that mentality, I think, has just been force fed to, Jalen his entire life. All right. And it comes from that. So he would definitely fit. Josh would fit. I think Cat is a player for these times and not those times. So I would not put him as fitting. And OG, when he's healthy, I think would fit. I think he would fit. But after, I'm trying to think. I don't know. Maybe Landry Shamet would fit. Let's see what happens there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's interesting you talked about Jalen and kind of what was instilled in him because clearly both of his parents, his mother, Sandra, father, Rick, had a big influence on him. But when you see how he takes care of business, approaches the game, it's easy to see how, Rick had such a big part of how Jalen developed on the floor, developed his game. So, I think there's a lot of maybe conspiracy theories around Rick. There's criticism for maybe, him sticking around from Thibodeau to Mike Brown. I think a lot of that stuff is overblown. And I also think that, look, if your star player is comfortable with a situation and it's working, that's a valuable situation. So you made me think of that, Barbara, when you mentioned Rick. A little bit of an aside there. But guys, now we are going to hit on storylines, which is presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. Storylines here. Knicks were in Dallas last night and they've been at the center of a lot of NBA discourse over the last year. Dallas also connected to the Knicks through Jalen Brunson's free agency. Looking at the current team, Cooper Flagg and his Rookie of the Year odds are at minus 120 with the team off to a slow start. And also teams' odds to make the playoffs at plus 400. Be sure to check out the Fanatics Sportsbook app for all your NBA future bets all season long. Fanatics Sportsbook, winning hits different here. A lot of news out of Dallas right over the last 12 months. Most recently, the firing of Nico Harrison, and you wonder what's coming next year. Do they tear it down to the studs? Do they look to just build around Cooper Flagg? Do they still want to try to win? Mark Cuban coming out with a quote in a statement, I think to the Athletic, saying, we're not trading Anthony Davis because we want to win here. But I just wonder if there's a point there, Ty, when they say, look, we have a very, very talented rookie. Our timeline is different now, so let's look into Anthony Davis trades, even a Kyrie Irving trades, and let's see what's out there. How do you think things are going to shake out for Dallas?
Yeah, I think that you have to, if you are trying to best maximize the value of Cooper Flagg, who, everyone projects to be this generational talent, you have to look at trades. And it's with all due respect to Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving, who are tremendous. The fact of the matter is these guys are always hurt. So if they were healthy, this would be completely different. A lot of people said, Cooper Flagg's coming into one of the most, decorated situations as far as the talent around him. Rookies typically go to bad teams. But because they can't stay on the court, like, how do you not try to flip that timeline and capitalize with some picks because of, and I don't want to stomp him when he's down, Nico Harrison making, I don't even think this is a question, the worst trade in NBA history. Like, we've seen guys get moved before. Kareem got traded. Shaq got traded, right? Like, Kevin Durant got traded. So we've seen all-time players get dealt before, but nothing to this magnitude. So the best way to, try to regroup and gather yourself is to explore some trade opportunities for your two best players, not named Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. The Knicks ties to Dallas, they're endless. It seems like Knicks signing Jalen Brunson in free agency, getting dinged, I think, a second-round pick for tampering in that free agency. Mark Cuban had a lot of things to say about how that went down and what happened and didn't happen, but clearly that impacted the franchise in a big way, and now you can't understate the importance of that Luka trade. I will say this, though. Before we fully judge the trade, doesn't Luka have to win with the Lakers? I mean, the trade as it is a horrendous trade, but the Lakers also have to win some games, win a title before you can say, wow, this is a horrendous, worst trade in NBA history. I bring that up because we haven't seen it yet. Luka looks great. It'll probably happen, but still has to happen before you start to talk about, how bad the trade is. And Barbara, when you look at the Jason Kidd situation from the summer, Knicks wanted him. I think he would have been there. If there was a list, he was probably number one on the list for a while in terms of their head coaching search. He's staying in Dallas. I could see him maybe getting a front office title now with that being open. But if Kidd were here, not here, but if they got Kidd, how do you think the team would be today?
I mean, I think he's a really, really good coach. I mean, I covered him as a player, and he was like an unbelievable point guard, and he always had that mentality. And I know he said he had no interest in coming here. Didn't he say that yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I buy into that.
I don't buy it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think he would have come here. I think he likes New York. I think he knows, what kind of place this is, and I think he would have come here. But now he's got something different going on, and them getting Cooper Flagg probably makes a big difference, right? So I mean, yeah. How do I think he would have done here? I mean, it wouldn't have been the same type of team, but they're a team that would have played incredibly hard. I mean, he's kind of a, he's a good coach. He's a really good coach.
Yeah, very good coach. And then, Ty, the natural question there is, what do you think of Mike Brown so far? How has he done?
I think it's too soon to tell. It just like holistically, like a lot of people are arriving at a conclusion after they had lost that Bulls game, which was ridiculous. But so far, he's doing exactly what everyone wanted Tibbs to do. And I don't want everything to become a referendum of Tibbs, who coached the Knicks to their most successful season in a quarter century, but he's playing the bench more and he's got buy-in. We talked about this earlier. Mikal Bridges and his attitude and his confidence. Now, 150 million extra dollars will do something to your confidence and elevate that. But another thing is him understanding his role within this offense, where he just looks more comfortable. And some of that, yes, can be pointed to when you come up with game sealing plays against the Celtics to help win your team playoff games. That's going to help elevate you. But I think Mike Brown understands it's not about the 5 first-round picks or the massive contract extension. This dude played in an NBA Finals. He has the experience. He's got a clutch gene. So if I can help maximize him, that'll be best for the team. And so far, he's done that. In addition to, OG prior to the injury, he was great. And of course, the team offensively looks incredible.
Yeah. No, I think what you're looking, or what I'm looking at the very least, is the 3-point defense. Can that change? Can that be cleaned up over time? Maybe it can't. Maybe it's just a personnel thing, and that's who this Knicks team is. But Mike Brown, too, what has stood out to me is he'll hold himself accountable in these post-game press conferences where he'll say, a couple games ago, he said, I shouldn't have challenged the call there in the first half, or I've got to be better with the rotations, and I've got to be better with the way I use player X. And I just wonder how that hits the locker room. Maybe they don't care. Maybe the players don't care. But I think there's something to be said for a coach owning up to his mistakes on a nightly basis in a sport where, in a city where we're gonna hyper analyze each player's performance, and the coach coming out and getting ahead of things like that. I haven't seen that before, Barbara, and I've been around a lot of coaches, but he seems to be pretty open in a self-critique there after every game.
Yeah, he is pretty open. I mean, obviously helps reporters a lot because it gives them some information to work with. And I mean, Tibbs was a different kind of guy, and maybe he felt he had to be a different kind of guy. I've known him for a long time. I knew him when he was an assistant coach, and he's not a guy that just shuts people down with questions. So, I mean, that wasn't then. So I think it's, he felt he had to be a certain way as the head coach of the Knicks, and Mike feels a different way. And that helps us. But I think maybe it also helps the players. Well, I don't know if that's true, because it depends how much of the players didn't know Tibbs' thinking. It really doesn't matter what someone says in a press conference if they're saying the right thing to the players. I mean, the press conference is for us. If you're, say if Tibbs was meeting with players and saying the right thing, that's a different thing. If he keeps, a coach that keeps you guessing, sometimes that creative tension is good on teams. I mean, I think Riley did that sometimes. I'm that old, yes. So, I mean, but I mean, I wasn't a beat writer then, but it's sometimes good. But generally, with these players, this day and age, people want information, and they like people who are honest with them. I think, and I can't say that Tibbs wasn't honest with people, but I can say that it seems Mike is pretty honest with people.
Yeah. It's so far, I think it's gone as well as you could hope. I think if you're the Knicks, given what the team has shown, particularly that home stretch and the injuries, and it's been a soft schedule. It hasn't been a tough schedule. They will get tested, obviously, over the course of the regular season, but for them to be looking as competent as they have been at this point in the year, I think it's what you wanted when you made that move. And guys, I'm going to hit on a couple quick storylines around the league. I'm looking at Atlanta right now because Trae Young, he's out. He's going to be out for a couple more weeks, I believe. And you look at this stretch with the Hawks without Trae Young. They didn't extend him before the season. That max extension is a big number. And I just wonder if the way they play now with Trae Young out, you have to think it informs the Hawks' thinking in terms of what to do with Trae Young long term. Do you sign him? Do you trade him? If you see this team kind of really, really effective without its point guard and its best player on the floor, and you see areas where maybe you can build off of that, I think the Hawks would be more likely to move off of Trae Young. And I think that's what, you're kind of looking at with this stretch here. I believe they're 7-3 so far without Trae. Some easy games that they have played, but I have to think that's at least part of the conversation down in Atlanta as they look at this stretch without Trae Young. Another note, New Orleans, Willie Green getting let go, James Borrego, who really advanced far in the Knicks coaching search in their interview process. And I think you can call him a finalist. And I think he'll get every opportunity to earn that job in New Orleans as the interim head coach. But I do think ultimately they'll end up doing a search, wider search. And I do know that Kevin Ollie, former Nets coach, former UConn coach, is going to get consideration for the job once they do open it up after the season. But Borrego, let's say they turn things around, they go crazy, they start winning a ton of games. Maybe it is his job, but I do think that the thinking now is to open it up for a bigger search. So we'll see what happens there, guys. We're going to shift to a segment we call the Talkback, where we invite my friend and yours, Matt Spenley, the Big Spend. He's relaying some questions from the audience to us. Matt, what do you have today?
What's up, guys? Ian, I want to hit you right back on something that you talked about earlier, is the Knicks' three-point defense. So they're 29th in the league in opposing three-point percentage. They were 26th last season. So I know you alluded to it earlier. I am curious for you, do you think that's something fixable, or do you think it's a systemic thing that will just be part of their identity, that they're not going to be great at defending the three?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at it year over year now, Matt, right? So to me, this is just where this team is limited. Whether it's, they're keeping, I think, teams out of the paint pretty well, but just having trouble getting out to shooters. And when you have this big of a sample size, when you're talking about full season last year, and now you're seeing the same thing again, maybe it is just limited by personnel. When you have a Mikal Bridges and an OG Anunoby healthy, you would think that lends itself to getting out to the line, or their teammates being able to get out to the line. Hasn't happened, and it's something that could be an Achilles heel for this group.
And being without a guy like OG obviously has an impact there. Barb, for you, I'm curious, do you feel the same as Ian on that when it comes to the Knicks' three-point defense in the rest of the season here?
I do. What is the difference when Mitch is playing and when he's not playing? I mean, their defense, I don't know. I don't have those stats, but I would like to know, because I think that kind of changes what goes on there. But, I don't think it's going to be something that they are really good at.
Totally fair. Ty, I want to come to you with something a little different, just about the East. Our guy, Bahamas Art, says Detroit and Toronto were not a lot of big on cards going into the year. Do you see them as legit? So when we're talking about the big picture of the Eastern Conference, obviously the Pistons have been scorching hot, and the Raptors are a surprise team that's been atop the conference, with a couple former Knicks friends, RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly there. So when you're looking at the Pistons and the Raptors, how do you see that? And just for reference, the Knicks play the Raptors at home on November 30th, so that one's coming up. They don't play Detroit until the turn of the calendar on January 5th in Detroit.
Yeah, and I mean, the Pistons have been excellent. Wait until Jaden Ivey comes back. He's just going to add another boost to them. Do I see them as legit? Absolutely. And if you're a Knicks fan, history tells you cannot underestimate any team, because did anyone have the Pacers beating the Knicks in the playoffs back-to-back years? No. Did anyone 3 years ago have Miami beating the Knicks in the playoffs? No. Did anyone have the Hawks? We just talked about Trae Young beating the Knicks in the playoffs. So as far as, what history says, you cannot underestimate any of these teams. But if the question is, who do I feel is the biggest threat to the Knicks, it still has to be Cleveland. We've yet to see Darius Garland return. Max Strus also on his way back. DeAndre Hunter got hurt in the playoffs. So with that team having the depth that they have, and then, you just watch Donovan Mitchell in that fourth quarter last night and a loss to the Rockets go off, I still think that while Detroit and Toronto are legit, the Knicks' biggest threat still is the Cleveland Cavaliers.
And Ty, you mentioned before, going into the year, I think the expectations are the Knicks should be representing the Eastern Conference in the finals, right, Ian? We've talked about it all year on the show. Expectations under Mike Brown will be that. So, Ian, for you to close out here, when we're looking at the East, you look at those two teams, where do you think the Knicks stand? It's 15 games in. We're going to be having a different conversation when it's February, March, when we're talking about potential playoff matchups. But what you've seen from the early stages, where do you think the Knicks fit in the East? And are you surprised to see any of those other teams up there near the top?
Yeah, so I'm not going to put a ton of stock into where we are in the year yet and what we've seen, but I still think that it's New York and Cleveland, and then Detroit maybe a peg below there. But Kate Cunningham is a fantastic player, and you talk about They're not going to be East. It's not going to be an East-West All-Star game, but if it was, would he be the guy in the East? Because he's been so good. The team has been so good, they're going to be there. I don't think any Knicks fan came into the year thinking they weren't going to be there. But I do still think that over the course of 82 games, then over a course of a playoff series, it is the Knicks and the Cavs, and it's everybody else. Toronto, it's great to see how they're playing, getting out in transition. Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett, Quickly in particular, playing really well. I'm just not sure if that can last. I think that might be something where it's a good early season story, but they start to regress to the mean over time.
And like I said, we'll see. It's a long season, but we always have our takeaways. So that's what I got. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Spenley. Guys, quick look ahead. Knicks at Orlando on Saturday. And then I believe they are coming home to face the Nets. So next two games there. And when you look at that Magic team underperforming early on, we kind of hit on it earlier, but then that Magic team in the East, Ty, do you think they figure it out and they start to become a threat the way that they hope they would be when they traded for Desmond Bane?
Yeah, I was just going to say the Bane addition just caught me by surprise, but he's added a lot to a team that was offensively challenged, great defensively. Banchero's now out with the injury. Yeah, I think that Orlando is, and we saw them beat the Knicks, right? They beat them, what was it, by 17 points. That's not a first round matchup you want. That's not a team you can just summarily dismiss. So when Banchero gets back, the Wagner guys on the squad, plus the Desmond Bane addition, I think they are a live dog in the East again. The Knicks are still better, but you don't want to dismiss any of those teams because we've seen them do it, and they have the capability, they have the infrastructure to get it done.
Bob, before we get out of here, I want to know what's one of your big X factors, big swings for the Knicks in terms of if it goes well, it's really important. They're going to do well. If it doesn't go well, things could go sideways. Is there a player? Is there an area of play? What do you see?
I think the biggest thing is health. I mean, right now they're running up and down more than usual, even though he's going deep. I mean, how long? I think OG is going to be out at least 4 weeks because you know how the Knicks are. They say 2 weeks, and then you'll get a thing. They'll say be reevaluated again in 2 weeks, right? So, I mean, the hamstrings are really, really tricky. I would, at this point, take my time with that. Let's get the hamstring, forward. Do you remember? Last year in the playoffs, he came back for a game and then he had to leave right away. So, I think that you really have to pay attention to that. I would say injuries are really going to be the number one thing. Maybe get a little better on defense. But I think that I like when Mike's offense is operating, it is like really fun to watch in a way that the Knicks have rarely been fun to watch over the course of years. I mean, that kind of offense.
Yeah, you mentioned everybody's kind of engaged with the ball moving. Ty, what about you? X factor, what's your swing factor?
Yeah, so that defensive stat that we heard earlier, what are they, 28th, 29th in three-point defense? Here's the thing. I think because of their personnel, there's a ceiling to how good their defense can be. We know Bridges and OG and even Mitchell Robinson are all awesome. Those are three guys, and there are 5 players on the court. As great as Towns and Brunson are offensively, we know they are going to get attacked. We saw it over and over in that Pacers series and to an extent in the Celtics series when they weren't jacking up threes. So I think there's a clear ceiling to how good this defense can be, which means that offense better be explosive. And I think it can be. So that's what I'm paying attention to the rest of this year.
Well, there you go. No ceiling for you two. Ty, excellent on ESPN New York and SNY. Barbara, excellent coverage, Newsday. Be sure to check her work out there. And really appreciate you guys for joining us today. Thank you for your time. And to the audience, thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Putback here, presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. We'll be back next week with a Thanksgiving mailbag for Thanksgiving week. So keep those questions coming. We'll keep answering them. We'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, Ian.